Welcome to Cinema Tech Review. Today we'll be reviewing the Tamron 28-75 f2.8 Di3 VXD G2 zoom lens. If at any point during this review you want to check out this exact same lens, there are Amazon links below for the US, UK, Canada, and international links. But let's jump into it. I've been using the G1 version of the 28-75 Tamron lens for the last 2.5 years and have been extremely happy with its autofocus, its sharpness, its contrast, and the way it handles backlit situations. This review will be based on using the Tamron 28-75mm lens for video. I have used it for photography, but most of my work with this lens has been for video, so that's what I will focus on. I am a practical filmmaker and depend heavily on my equipment to offer the best quality that I can afford to carry with me. The Tamron 28-75 original version was one of the best-selling lenses on the market for Sony cameras, and rightfully so. I've used that lens for over 2.5 years and have found it to be an excellent lens. So let's see how the new G2 lens stacks up against the original version. According to Tamron, the G2 version is an upgrade to the original lens, improving two notable characteristics: improved optical design, which increases resolution and enhances imaging performance, and the addition of the VXD, which is Tamron's voice coil extreme torque drive linear motor focus mechanism, providing fast, quiet, and precise autofocus performance throughout the zoom range. Tamron claims that this lens is capable of focusing twice as fast as the G1 version of this lens. Additionally, they added a USB-C connector port, adding the functionality of a button on the lens with advanced programmable features. The lens is compatible with the Sony full-frame and APS-C E-mount cameras. When using the lens on a full-frame camera and applying Sony's clear image zoom, this lens has an effective zoom range of 28 to 112.5 millimeter, which is pretty amazing for a lens of this weight, f2.8 aperture through the range, and its price. On the APS-C cameras, the 28 to 75 millimeter zoom is equivalent to a 42 to 112.5 millimeter lens on a full-frame camera. The maximum aperture for this lens is 2.8, which makes this lens very attractive for filmmakers and photographers looking for a bright lens that won't break the bank. Tamron 28-75 lens is moisture sealed and weighs in at 19 ounces or 540 grams, which is about 10 grams lighter than the original lens. The lens has a very solid feel, and the G2 version has a curvaceous look to it compared to the G1 version. The addition of the focus button and the USB-C port add features to what was already a great performing lens. The minimum focusing distance for this lens at 28mm is just 7.1 inches from the camera's sensor, which makes this lens a macro ratio of 1 to 2.7. However, if we focus on something at 28mm and then use the camera's clear image zoom feature, we can now make this a true macro lens. The focus bezel, when using it for manual focus, works very smoothly and is large enough to use with and without gloves on. The rubber ribbing on the bezel is nice and has a good grip to it. I had no problems with the old lens's autofocus speed or precision. This new lens is certainly as good, if not better, in terms of focusing and focus speed. I have used this G2 version in numerous situations and have found the focus tracking to be really good. Even in low contrast situations, I've found the lens to do a really good job of locking onto the subject and keeping focus. The G2 version seems to have minimized the amount of focus breathing that you get with this lens. Here's an example of focus tracking at 28mm with me walking towards the camera. I used a cell phone with the Sony app to focus on me before walking. Here is another example of focus tracking at 75mm. In both cases, the lens and camera appear to do a very good job of focus tracking. This Tamron 28 to 75mm f2.8 G2 lens does have a customizable button which you can set up for numerous functions. After downloading the software from the Tamron website and connecting your lens to your computer, you can update the lens firmware as well as set up custom actions for the button on the side of the lens. Some of the actions include using the button to switch from autofocus to manual focus, and even setting it for a rack function focus shift from one point to another. I'd like to show you how I use this lens on my DJI RSC gimbal. Because this 28 to 75mm zooms externally, balancing it on a gimbal can be challenging. However, when I use it on the gimbal, I have found that balancing it with the lens zoomed midway at about 55mm, the motors on the gimbal are strong enough to compensate for the balance being off when at 28mm or 75mm. For me, this is a perfect fit because it is a bright f2.8 zoom lens from 28 to 75, is extremely light, allows close focus at 28mm, all without breaking the bank. There are a couple of other lenses that compete with this Tamron 28 to 75 f2.8 G2 lens. There's the Sigma 24 to 70 f2.8 and the Sony 24 to 70 f2.8 GM. Both Sigma and Sony offer very good performance at additional price and weight. For the price of the Sony lens, you can get both the Tamron 17 to 28, the 28 to 75 lenses, and have extra money for high quality variable ND filters, which you will of course need if you're shooting outdoors. This 28 to 75mm f2.8 G2 lens is a part of my holy trinity of travel lenses, which also include the 17 to 28 and the Tamron 75 to 300. All of these lenses offer good, sharp focus, quiet operation, are extremely light and inexpensive, and best of all, they all use the 67mm variable XND Pro neutral density filter. When I'm traveling, I either have the 17 to 28 or the 28 to 75 on my DJI RSC gimbal. If you want to check out this exact same lens, there are Amazon links below for the US, UK, Canada, and international links. See you in the next video.